So normally I do not work Sundays, but I decided to pick up tonight to make a little extra money for the trip. It's always very motivating when there's something in particular that I'm working for to save up. And right now I'm looking at a tent and I'm looking at a sleeping bag, two things that I definitely need before my trip. So because I'm picking up tonight and making a little extra money, I believe I'm gonna go ahead and order one of those tonight. I will end up with some new piece of gear tonight. We'll see what happens. I got an email at work saying that my package has been delivered, so after a long day of waiting, I finally went to go check it out. And there was nothing. I was so excited. Honestly, as you can hear in this video, I was pretty much speechless. My roommate had accidentally grabbed it and of course left town, so just had to be a little more patient. So inside this box right here is the Gossamer Gear The One ultralight single-person backpacking tent. Is this going to be my new shelter of choice, or am I going to end up sending this one back? I'm excited to try something new. I love my current tent. It's just a little too heavy. I bought it as a two-person tent knowing that I would like to invite people backpacking with me, but didn't expect everyone to have their own backpacking tent. So it's been easy for me to say, hey, I'm going backpacking in a few weeks. Do you want to come? All you need is your pack, sleeping bag, and food. I got the rest covered. So that purchase, the Marmot Limelight 2, has been incredible. I love that tent. But for my trip coming up in July, hiking the Colorado Trail, I wanted to find an ultralight tent that I felt really comfortable in, something that was super lightweight that wouldn't take up a lot of space or weight in my backpack. This tent came recommended from a friend who's hiked the PCT and the Colorado Trail herself. She said she saw a lot of people out here and they were pretty happy with Gossamer Gear. I've heard of the brand. I'm pretty excited to give this a try. Now it is a non-freestanding tent. So recently I have gotten savvy to trekking poles, and due to that I can get a tent that uses those trekking poles to set it up. So that's going to cut a lot of weight, not having to carry the tent poles with me. It's important for me to find something that I feel really comfortable with, but just to make sure it's something that I can see myself living in for a month, 5 weeks. I think the one thing I'm a little bit nervous about is setting this tent up and either having a really hard time. Now I'm expecting the first time to be a little rough. I want to set it up on camera for the first time just to show how intuitive it is for someone who's never set this up before. Certainly I plan on setting it up multiple times, getting good at it, really know what I'm doing. I'm not worried if it's dark about trying to figure this out for the first time. What else is new for me is this tent is a single wall, so there is one layer of fabric. A lot of tents maybe that you've set up have the tent and then you put a rain fly on top of it. Now of course that's good for rain. It's especially good for condensation. The downfalls or the trade-offs is you are going to get condensation in the morning. Now depending where you are, the temperature, it's not a guarantee, but certainly these tents come with that as sort of a caveat. It is not a flaw of Gossamer Gear's design. It happens with all single wall tents, and it's just the principles of nature, the physics of nature, if you will. You're inside a hot tent, it's cold on the outside, you're breathing, condensation is going to gather on the inside of your tent. That is part of the reason why this tent weighs only 17.7 ounces. 17.7 ounces. Just 17.7 ounces, which is just a little over a pound, which blows my mind that, I mean, this box is so light, and I know that it's still in the cardboard box. They sold a ground cover that came with it too. So all that in this box, as light as this is, even though it has a thin single wall design, these tents are designed to be waterproof. Now granted, I think any tent is going to have a little bit of margin of error if we're in a torrential downpour. At the end of the day, it is a piece of fabric, but this is made out of a waterproof material. It has what they call the bathtub floor, so a single piece lines the floor and curves up to the side a little bit, and that's going to keep water that's rushing from under your tent from spilling over into that bathtub and filling up the bathtub, if you will. I have been patiently waiting, so now it's time. We're going to head outside, tear into this box, and see what's inside. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and dig in. This is definitely a first look for me, so I kind of want to just open this up and see what's inside before we start getting things set up. So let's dive on in. One package. It was a few extra bucks. It was an add-on, but I did get this Polycro ground sheet. It's going to help extend the life of the tent, add a little bit of moisture protection. I don't know about much insulation, but it's going to be good to kind of keep the bottom of my actual tent from getting beaten up, and I'd much rather replace a layer of film like this in the whole tent. So this did come in my package. Ooh, it's light. So exciting. So my big thing about setting this tent up is I'm just trying to make sure that I'm willing to sacrifice that weight for the comfort or the room. Certainly, as we talked about, this tent is extremely light, and as I keep taking off more and more packaging, it keeps getting lighter and lighter. That's crazy. It's hard to imagine this right here is my shelter. I mean, absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy. But let's take it out. So it does come with a stuff sack here, which is pretty cool. Start rolling it out. Now, that's actually very cool. I did not think it came with stakes, so let's check this out. Nice, all right. Well, that's kind of a bonus. I had some stakes from my other tent. I thought I had to go purchase some, and maybe depending on how durable these are, that's one thing you don't want to go wrong when you're out in the middle of nowhere, so I'll kind of give these a rough go at it, but let's see how many we got in here. 6, I'm assuming. 2, 3, I got more than that. 8 stakes. Awesome. Seriously, didn't know. I didn't even know if it's out on the website. That was a bonus. And then some extra cord in there. So we got 2 of these guys. Start to unwrap this a little bit here. And of course, no poles in this tent because I'm using my trekking poles. I did end up making a video about my first trip using these poles. I'll go ahead and make sure I link that up to check those out. But these poles so far have been awesome. I think they're gonna get me through. They were moderately priced, they get the job done. But this is my first trekking pole tent. So I'm excited to see how these can serve another function and set up my shelter as well. I want to kind of see myself, to see how long it takes me, but also maybe just to show someone else who's setting it up for the first time. This isn't a detailed how-to, this is just sort of a first look unboxing type video. So I'm gonna go ahead and see what happens. So all in all, first time, definitely struggled a little bit there. It took about like 6 or 7 minutes, which isn't bad. So I had a general idea how these tents were set up. There's definitely some things, the more I set it up, like I noticed on the other side, this pole is bowed out a little bit more. Should they be wide? Should they be straight up? Certainly I learned that I need to attach these lines immediately after putting the poles in, because you put the poles in and they just wanted to tip. So I already have a strategy, pole in, stake out. But it's set up, it went up pretty dang quick, and I kind of want to check out the inside and see how I feel once I get in there. Initially sitting up with no problems. I've got, shoot, I can almost extend my arm. That's a little dramatic, but sitting right in the middle, height is really not an issue. Now, it's no surprise that it's not very wide. I mean, that's kind of the gig with these tents. I definitely see where you'd sleep in here. Although it's long enough, I'm maybe 5'10". And if I decide to kind of get cozy here, I don't have my head really near the mesh, but my feet maybe have another 8 inches. I'll show that. I think it'd be a little difficult to get a pack or a lot of gear in here. I know a big part of what I like to do in the morning is be in my tent, and while I'm in there, sort of pack my bag for the morning and do stuff like that. So that could be a little bit tricky in here, but there is a pretty decent sized vestibule space. Now there's the one door, but out there when that's staked out, you'll have plenty of good room, I think. So they've added a lot of ventilation down there, and I know you can stake out the corners of these to really get them to square off. So as I set this up, like I would make an adjustment. That looks a little too tight, and I could stake out the corner. So just going off my initial first thoughts, again, no surprise it's small. That's the whole point of the tent. It's supposed to be small and light. But getting inside of it, I started to have my concerns. Definitely, I would like to sleep in it, take a trip in it to really see, kind of wear it out and just see how I feel once I'm in there, if it's comfortable enough. I mean, when you're sleeping, I don't really move around that much. Yeah, so taking it out on a trip is definitely the next step to deciding whether it's something I'm gonna feel comfortable in night after night. I think I'll know after a few nights whether it's something I can kind of get along with, or if I really need to revert back to my older tent or something in between that has a little bit more space but is lightweight. All right, thanks for checking out this unboxing video of the Gossamer Gear The One tent. I'll certainly keep you guys updated as I refine my gear list for my trip this summer, and as we start to stress test this. I also want to take a look and sort of compare with my other tent sometime and really kind of go through the pros and cons of having a bigger tent versus the smaller tent here. But thanks for watching.